Constitution provides the path for a more perfect union, and that only limited government can expand prosperity and opportunity for all, and that freedom is a God-given right, and freedom is worth fighting for. And folks, here I know that you can appreciate this time-tested truth. We do know that America's finest are men and women in uniform. They are a force for good throughout this world, and that is nothing to apologize for. Yes. We still think that America is that shining city on a hill, and that we still are the abiding alternative to tyranny. And yes, we do know that our best days are yet to come. So I ask you to not give up the fight. Take my dad's advice. When he told me, when he reads something about me in the news, and he wants to defend his daughter, but he knows he needs to zip his lip, otherwise you're going to write something bad about him too. He always reminds me, he says, don't let him get you down. It's an old Latin term, illegitimi non carborundum. It says, don't let the bastards get you down. Don't let them. But he has an Alaskan, he puts it even more frank than that. He says, don't retreat. Don't retreat. Just reload. That's what we got to do, folks. That's what we got to do. Take it back. Take our country back. And in November, folks, these midterm elections are so crucial. We have got to get a Congress in there who will slow down some of that slippage that we see with our foreign policy, with our economic issues that we're dealing with today. These midterm elections are so extremely important. So hang in there, folks. Keep the faith, please. Don't ever, ever retreat. Reload. God bless you, Virginia. God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Sarah Palin. Governor Palin, this is my favorite part of the whole evening. This is where I get to ask you a few questions and you get to answer. Now, are you ready for that?
Absolutely.
All right, great. Now, some of these questions were Kelly and I sat down and came up with them. Others came from listeners of the radio show. So here's the first one. Tonight, Governor Palin, is a salute to our military and first responders. You and I both have sons serving in the U.S. military. Now, I would ask you, what advice would you give to a young person who's thinking about entering the service, serving our country, and what advice would you give to their mom and their dad?
Well, first advice to the parent, if you have an inkling that your child is thinking about joining the military, I would say, other than advising your child to get their life straight with God and to seek His purpose in life, I don't think that there is anything better that a parent can do but to encourage that child to look at military service. To get this child to understand that the world is big, our Constitution needs defending, it is a worthy cause to serve something greater than self. I was very blessed in that when my son turned 18, I didn't have to cancel him. He told me, he hung up the hockey skates and he said he was going to enlist, and a year after he enlisted, he was deployed for a year in Iraq. He returned safely. I'm very thankful for that. But for my son to return and have such a greater appreciation for this country, I don't think that there is anything more helpful and more helpful for especially a youngster, 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, boy or girl, to get him in that military and let them see the world and let them see how absolutely exceptional America really is.
The next question deals with the oil spill, the disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. Huge story right now. I've heard it said that this is Obama's Katrina. I don't agree with that. I think this is going to be Obama's Iran hostage crisis. I really do. Really do. However, this does present a quandary, especially in a coastal state like here in Virginia. You've dealt with that as the governor of Alaska. Do Do you support continuing offshore drilling? And if so, how do we convince those that are against it that it's still a good idea to continue offshore oil exploration?
I do. Offshore, safe, responsible development. I'm going to still keep on chanting drill, baby, drill, because if we don't drill in U.S. waters, we're going to be beholden to the foreign countries to produce energy for us. That makes no sense. We have these God-given resources. It is safer, more conventional to drill onshore. For President Obama recently to say, well, we're drilling in these dangerous offshore areas because we're running out of land to drill on. No, we're not. Has he ever heard of ANWR, or the National Petroleum Reserve up in Alaska? In Alaska alone, we have billions and billions and billions of barrels of oil, and with the stroke of a pen, we could be more energy independent. And yes, I do believe that offshore drilling, remember, for decades we have drilled in the Gulf of Mexico and we haven't had a disaster. This is tragic. I've worked and lived through the tragedy of the Exxon oil